Hey, good morning, people. Coming to you from Lambert's Bay Harbour. Good to see all the fishing vessels doing their thing, coming in and going out, and it's good to see this happening. We're talking to you about standing in the gap. We've been using point of reference as Moses over here, talking about what it means to stand in the gap for God. In order for us to know that there is gap, according to the system that God has, you've got to see the gap. You've got to take the scotomas off your eyes. And then secondly, God said in Exodus chapter 3, He said, I have heard their cry. You got to hear. You don't just see with your eyes, you see with your ears as well as you hear the cry of a world that is going to hell. Now some of you are saying, hey Trev, why do you have to be so dramatic about that? I don't think I'm being dramatic enough, people, because that's exactly where the world is headed. And that's exactly why Jesus came, because He heard the cry of a generation and of a people who were destined for hell, and He just couldn't stand it anymore. And so when we hear the cry of people, it means different things to different people as God creates different opportunities and different gaps in which you are able to stand, if you will. Now just turn on the news, people, and you will see that there are gaps all over the world. There are gaps in our towns, in our schools, in our country, in our homes. There's gaps in our community of people who are making the same cry. We need help. We need direction. We need somebody to tell us the way that we can get our lives right and get to heaven one day. And it's this cry that the church needs to hear. And we're sitting, as it were, in our pews, and we've got our little things on our ears so that we can't hear. We're listening to worship music. We're listening to a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's good stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. But maybe we need to take our earphones off today and to hear the cry of a world that is destined for a Christless eternity. Now that's dramatic stuff, but I don't think it can be dramatic enough. People, we need to hear the cry. I know we hear it and we watch it on TV, and we see it and we hear the people of the destination of different nations that they're going in the wrong way, and wrong things are happening to people all around us, and I don't want to be facetious, but all we do is kind of change the channel and look for something happy to look at instead of looking face to face with the reality of the cry of humanity. Jesus took this very seriously when He spoke about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Here's this guy lying in the gutter, and he's crying out for help. And the only guy that eventually helped him was a guy who shouldn't have helped him at all. And sadly, isn't that the place in the world today where we see the world is doing a better job than maybe the churches at helping people? The world is drawing alongside people and helping them, doing the best that they possibly can because they've heard the cry. But I reckon the church needs to catch a fat wake up and listen to the cry of the people around us. Let's listen to it. Let's respond to it, because that people is a great gap that God is looking for somebody to stand in the gap for. They're the cries of the voiceless people around us. Oh, they're crying, but nobody's listening. They're the cries of the hungry and those who are suffering injustice. And they're crying out, but nobody's really listening until the church arrives. But when the church arrives, man, I think God gets really excited and says, at last, guys, you've heard the cry. You're doing out the Good Samaritan thing, and you're listening to the cry of those who are in need. This is the application of what we're talking about. The application we said yesterday, let's apply it to our own lives, that there are cries that we cry to God, and let's keep crying for goodness sake. But the implication of that is, let's listen for the cry of a dying humanity around us who really and truly need us to respond, to stand in the gap on their behalf. Now, I'm going to leave it open-ended right now, because everybody will make an interpretation of this, and it will be different for different people. But I just hope that, for goodness sake, one thing happens, is that you and I take our earphones off and let's start listening to the cry of the world that is going to hell. And let's do something about it. Let's stand in the gap and let's save the world. Cheers, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.